All right, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? How's it going? It's Else. Going to bring you a video going over the Psijic order skills. Now, I haven't really touched them. I mean, I've spent some time leveling them up. I haven't really tested them. I thought it might be kind of fun to go through the full testing process a little bit and kind of, show you, or at least how I go about doing it. So some of these skills will be, experienced for the first time. Kind of talk about them. Talk about potential uses and whatnot for your guys' future builds. Once again, this is always this is going to be as it pertains to PvP. So I don't think most of these skills are going to make it on a PvE skill line anyways. I think these are more PvP related, but yeah. So with all that being said, let's dive into it. I am on a Stamina Nightblade, and I'm going to be testing it on that because Stamina Nightblade is my main. We have a bunch of skills. Let's start at the beginning though. Psijic Order is the new skill line that you get in Somerset Isles. You get this skill line by doing the main quest line. You level it up by doing the main quest line, yada, yada, yada. Before we go into the actual skills, let's see what the passives are. See the Unseen. The insight you have gained from the Psijic Order grants you vision of the spiritual world. You now interact with rifts all throughout Tamriel. Cool. Clairvoyance. Reduces the cost of your Psijic Order abilities by 15%. Spell Orb. When you cast a Psijic Order ability while you are in combat, you generate a spell charge. When you reach 5 spell charges, you launch a spell orb at the closest enemy to you, dealing 1510 magic damage or 3356 physical damage, whichever is higher. This is a Stamina Nightblade, so stamina based. That's why we're going to do more physical damage. The spell charge must be generated within 10 seconds of each other, or all charges will be lost. Interesting. That's interesting. A lot of these skills have channels, so I think imbue weapons might be really... There's a couple skills where this might actually happen a decent amount, but yeah. This one is also interesting. Concentrated Barrier. While you have a Psijic Order ability slotted and are blocking, you gain a damage shield that absorbs 5,000 damage. The damage shield recharges back to full strength after you spend 10 seconds not blocking. So this skill line, this passive here, I mean, it's not going to be a lot. It's 2,500 shield in PvP, but when you're blocking, you gain that. If you're not blocking for 10 seconds, you gain it again. It's a free damage shield. And by having it on your bar, there's one skill in this that it's actually pretty good for tanking, and I'm going to dive into that as well when we go through the skills. I think it's going to actually, make its way on a few of my builds. So we'll have to test it a little bit more, but we'll see what happens. And then while you're casting or channeling a Psijic Order ability, you gain major protection, reducing your damage taken by 30%. So pretty big. So when you're channeling one of these abilities, you're very tanky. You're not just going to get nuked while you're in channel. So I'm sure there's a lot of Magic Templars looking at that right now, and they're like, seriously? Like, you're going to give them major protection when they're channeling when all my abilities are channels? Yeah. Anyway, let's dive into it after we kill these ads a little bit. We're going to level up our ulti anyways, because I think one of the most interesting skills is actually the ultimate. And I know some people, I've seen a couple posts, and they're like, well, why would you run that ultimate? And I think, and I wanted to show this, and hopefully I can, post it, but I think this ultimate is going to be one of the best ultimates for 1vxing. And I think it's going to work very well on a Stamina Nightblade, and that's why I wanted to test it. So we're going to find a couple more things to kill, and then we're going to dive into the morphs that I chose. And then, obviously we can go into the Magicka morphs on another class, but I wanted to show the stamina ones first because, that's what I'm on as a stamina class. Oh my gosh. All right. I am done dilly-dallying. We're doing this. So this is the Psijic Order Ultimate. It starts off as Undo. I morphed it to Temporal Guard. And the reason I did is it says step backwards in time, resetting your health, magicka, stamina, and position to what they were 4 seconds ago. While slotted, you gain minor protection, reducing your damage taken by 8%. So when you're on your kite bar, when you're on your shield bar, when you have this active, you're going to have 8% damage reduction. So minor protection. Awesome. Very useful buff to have. Makes you a little bit more tanky. Survivability will be much nicer. On top of that, because of the Psijic Order skill lines, when you block while you're on this tankier kiting bar, you gain a damage shield, which is also tankiness and survivability. If you go 10 seconds without it, you get the damage shield back. So, having this skill slotted on a bar, like a sword and board bar, might come in handy. On top of that, you know, if all of a sudden you need to escape an area because you got a bunch of people beating on you and you're, as an example, a stam DK, you move off to the side, you move away for 4 seconds, and then all of a sudden you activate this, and then you're where you previously were, they're no longer beating on you. That may be just enough time for you to get your heals back up to get reset to continue to tank and, you know, be a badass. So I'm pretty excited about this. I can't remember exactly what the other morph is. I will remorph all these and I'll make another video for it. But this is the one I chose, and I think it's pretty interesting. Now, the reason I like it on a Stamina Nightblade, and the reason I think it's going to be very useful, is they changed how Shadow Image works. So for those of you Stamina Nightblades, you guys know that before, when you dropped Shadow Image, you had to be within sight of an enemy. So you see that, like, I had to be looking at this enemy in order to drop my Shadow Image. Now, it doesn't matter. I can drop my Shadow Image wherever I want. So it just makes this skill a lot better and a lot easier to use. You know, if for those of you that are good with Shadow Image, this is just a huge buff for the class. It took a couple nerfs, and I will discuss that in other videos, but Shadow Image is just it's a powerful skill when used correctly. Most people don't know how to use it correctly, but they made it a lot easier to use with dropping wherever you want. On top of that, and I'm sure you guys will see where I'm going with this, but if we use this and we can time it correctly, let's say, hypothetically, you know, I'm getting chased by a Zerg, and that has never happened before, trust me. I've never been chased on horseback halfway across the map. So let's say hypothetically we're being chased, okay? And so we put our Shadow Image down, and we start running. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to ult back to this area, and we can then potentially, if we're still in range, and I wasn't there, and I've done it, but you can then use your Shadow Image. If you get back in range of your Shadow Image, you can then use your Shadow Image to get back farther away. So it's just a way to create separation. And it's not always going to work out well. I've had it a few times where I actually just went straight, after 7 seconds, I went straight back to my Shadow Image. So it was a long distance traveled. So at the end of the day, it was still accomplishing the same thing. It just did it all in one zap. So I think it's going to be very effective on a Nightblade. I think this 8% on the back bar with the occasional block, let's say I'm getting soul assaulted, my shield goes up. You know, I go like this, drop my Shadow Image. They go after me. I can zap back. I can drop another one. And I come over here. They're beating on me, and I zap back. It's a very cheap skill that really doesn't use much, you know, really doesn't use much magicka. And I could be wrong, but yeah, when you zap back, you don't even use any magicka to go back to it. Very useful skill, and I think it's going to work well with this ability. But the only way I am not going to use this ultimate is because it makes me dizzy. This ultimate, just like, the animation is very, it's very annoying for me, at least. Like, like how you travel looks very weird. So let's try this again. We're gonna drop it here. Oh, and I didn't. Okay, so it didn't take me to my Shadow Image that time. So it's not always working that way. I've only done it once out of like 5 times, and I could very well be running out of range of my Shadow Image. But you kind of get my point. Like, you can, even if you can't get back to this, you know, after you use this skill, you can drop it, you know, go back 4 seconds in time, drop another one, and then, you know, now you just have so much survivability and kiteability with this specific skill. And so this will probably replace a few things on my bar. I just playing around with it right now. It's just very, very nice. But yeah, that's the ultimate. I think it's pretty good. Off the top of my head, I'm probably going to put it on my Stamina DK. I'm probably going to put it on my Stamina Nightblade. I could see myself putting it on my Magicka Nightblade too, just because I want that ability to escape. I might not put it on there just because Shadow Image is so much better now, and so I might not need it. But those classes specifically are going to be very good. I could see it on a Stam Sorc since you can still fit it on an overload bar. You know, you can go into overload and then you can activate the ultimate and then you get out of it. So without really any loss of anything, I could see that being effective. But sword and board builds I think would be pretty useful. Now, let's dive into the next one. Borrowed Time. This is the Time Stop morph. Freeze the passage of time at the target location, gradually reducing the movement speed of enemies in the area during the channel before finally stunning them into place for 3 seconds when the channel completes. Enemies that are stunned have the next 5,000 points of healing completely negated for 3 seconds. Now, I used this one. The other one slowed down and then stopped the enemies. And so that one's going to be effective too. I think this one's going to be better for PvP just because enemies that are stunned have the next 5,000 points of healing completely negated. So not only are they stunned in place, locked down, taking damage wherever you're doing damage in group play, they also can't be healed. So 5,000 is actually a decent amount. That's a couple ticks. That's really all you need in some situations to wipe a group. You know, I'm sure, you know, for those of you guys that have bombed, for those of you guys that have run bursty builds, and, you know, you run across a Stamplar or a Magic Templar or whatever, and you drop them down to 2k health and they CC break and it's Breath of Life and they're back to full. Groups function in that way too. Like you can go in with a bomb and you have everybody at 15% health and then they all get healed back to full by a healing ult, and then you just narrowly missed wiping everybody. This in group play should be enough to put it over the top. Just that little extra time where your group can dish out damage that, you know, they can't heal through. So I have it on my left bumper. We're just going to see what the animation is. We're not going to see it in PvP, but you already see it's a very big area. So this coincides pretty well with the negate. It coincides pretty well with you know, farming towers, choke points, you know, in general, just any area where you can kind of thin people down to this big of an area, which isn't hard, like sewers, that's going to slow them down and that's going to stun them in the area. And then everybody in that area is going to take less healing for 3 seconds. Pretty damn cool. I think that skill is going to be very annoying in PvP. I'm guessing there's going to be a few edits in the patch notes as we go along because this one has the biggest chance of being broken, in my opinion. I think there's just too much potential for this to just be AIDS. So it is a cast time. Looks like it is. Let me double check. Duration 1.5 seconds. So you can be interrupted when you're doing this. So if you see somebody doing this, you know that you've got to interrupt it or you can bash it. Then they can't cast it right away. So with that being said, like I was looking at this and I was thinking it might work out pretty well like on a Stam Sorc, like a negate tank. But negate tanks typically play in front, and I don't think a negate tank is going to be able to pull this off in theory. I think the way to do this would probably I think a bomber would actually have to do this. Yeah, like a bomber crouched hiding in an area, they do this. Can you cast it from stealth? No. So it pulls you out of stealth. So maybe it's not going to be OP. You know, I think that cast time really makes a difference. But it is a big area. It is a big area of effect. It's not a lot of magicka either. So I think it's going to be very effective for ball groups and group play in general. So, yeah. Next one, Imbue Weapon. This is the Crushing Weapon one. They have Stamina and Magicka morphs. The other one's a Magicka-based morph. I did the Stamina one. Infuse your weapon with power, causing your next light attack used within 2 seconds to deal an additional 6378 physical damage and heal you for 16% of the damage done. This is a pretty interesting skill. I think it's going to, especially the magical one, will probably make its way on my bar for my Magicka Nightblade gank build. You know, it's just so much extra burst. You light attack with a Destro staff, you use your concealed weapon, Calurians goes off. You know, it's going to be a lot of pressure. I was testing it a little bit earlier today, and it looks like it's just a straight light attack. You know, it's kind of interesting because the game classifies heavy attacks as full heavy attacks, but they classify light attacks as just light attacks. I don't know what in between is, but sometimes it just doesn't exist. So you really, in order to proc it, you have to, it's just literally just a poke. So you see the normal attack is right there. If I try it and do a full heavy, well, that's not going to matter. Let's see if I can find another guy. See, I did a slightly larger cast time, and it could just be because it's a 2 seconds. But it really is only a light attack in order to proc it. So it looks like it. I think it's interesting. I think it's going to be really interesting on gank builds. I don't think it's going to be one of those skills that can really make it on your bar. I don't think it can make it on your bar in big combat situations a whole lot. I could be wrong. I think maybe that little extra burst occasionally will come in handy, but I don't know. Duration is 2 seconds. Yeah. So cool skill, really good damage, really good effect. But yeah, it's only just light attacks, and it's only one light attack. So I don't think we're gonna have to worry about this, as outside of being abused by gankers. Like ganker, you're gonna have this, you're gonna do this surprise attack in cap, and that's gonna be your burst, and it's gonna be pretty damn effective. But yeah, let's go to the next one. Channeled acceleration. Bend time and space around you to gain major expedition for 9 seconds and minor force for 36 seconds, increasing your movement speed by 30% and critical damage by 10%. I think this is a pretty interesting skill. I think the minor force is very effective. I think this could be very effective, especially, like I said, on Nightblades and Templars. So now I did the morph that increased the duration. So now we have the movement speed, and then we have minor force as well. A minor force means, every time we crit, we do 10% more crit damage, makes us more bursty. As a stamina Nightblade, we can then use concealed weapon to hit even harder. So concealed weapon guarantees a crit. So we know that we'll have minor force when we proc this beforehand. So it's very interesting. I don't see it necessarily having I don't know. Like I don't know if it's good enough to make it on most bars, but I could see it being useful, like I said, on gank builds. You run this on a gank build. Well, you could actually cast it from stealth. Okay. So yeah, so you can cast it from stealth. You have your other skill, your imbue weapons, which apparently that's good to know. So pulls you out of stealth. Why does it only sometimes pull me out of stealth? Oh, maybe I wasn't in stealth before. Yeah, okay. So maybe imbue weapons isn't going to work as well on a gank build because of that reason. So yeah, I'm not sure about imbue. But yeah, this skill is interesting because you can get that extra buff, and then you can combine that with other buffs and all that fun jazz without having to drop a trap. So I could see it being effective on, like I said, on a ganking Nightblade. I could see it being effective potentially for group play. You use it before you go in and really hammer a group of people. Minor force is just a nice buff to have, plus the movement speed. I can't really use this skill correctly right now because I'm on a stamina-based build, and so it's not showing me exactly what it does. I'm not going to lie, I'm still confused when I look at this. Mend wounds. Invoke the rights of Molwita. Replacing your next light or heavy attack used within 3 seconds with healing abilities that can be used on allies. Your light attack heals for 1392 health over 10 seconds, so it's nothing on this build. Your heavy attack heals for 31 to 28 health every 1 second while channeling. So I'm going to have to test this on like a Templar in order to actually see what this does, because I can't really say a whole lot right now because I just don't see the numbers. I don't see exactly how this is working. So we'll come back to it. And then finally, meditate. Focus your body and mind into a meditative state, healing for 1624 health and restoring 1848 magicka and stamina every 1 second. You will remain in a meditative state until you toggle this ability off or are interrupted. Keep in mind, because you are channeling, you get major protection while doing this. So pretty effective. What we're going to do is we're going to go get beat up by some ads over here, and then we're going to dodge roll a lot. We're going to have them hit us, and then we're just going to show what the skill does. All right, so the skill in general, it's going to take some skill to use. Like you see, it's a channel. It's not going to be as nice as people think it's going to be. Oh, I almost killed myself there. All right, so I'm dodge rolling, I switch bars, and I go in this meditative state, and then you just see my stat bars jumping up. You can stay here for as long as you want until you're interrupted. And so until somebody bashes you out of it, you could just sit here and float in the air and gain resources. So I could see this skill being effective for classes that have big resource pools. I think this coincides very well with the ultimate. Like I said, let's say I'm kiting around and I jump away like this and I use this and I go back to where I was. All of a sudden I'm 4 seconds away from somebody. They might not know that I'm there. I then channel this skill to get my resources back, and then I get back in the fight. The only problem with using all these skills is then you have to replace them with something else. So what are you going to take off your bar to use this? And so I think it's good. I think it can be effective, but I think it has to be used with a skill like Shadow Image, or it has to be used with a skill like Undo, because you need to get that separation. It's like using Dark Flare. If people see you doing this, they're going to bash you. They're going to interrupt you out of it. They're going to know you're trying to get resources back. You have to be able to, basically line of sight around a tree, put it over here, run away and fight, Shadow Image back, get behind the tree, and then you get your seconds back. And so it actually is, I don't have it fully buffed, but 1848 magic and stamina every second, that is 3,700 stamina or magic or recovery. So 3,700 on top of your normal recovery. If you can use it well, and I'm not saying, I don't know, I'm gonna try it out in PvP and whatnot and see if I can, but it's basically like Shadow Walker for every single class. You don't have to be stealth to do it. You get major protection. You can take some damage while you're in this. And so as long as you don't get bashed or interrupted and they're a little bit farther away, you can get your resources back. And, that means you can run a pretty bursty build. You can drop around this tree, go around over here. You're only running 1,500 magic recovery, you go back, and then you get channeled, and you get your resources back, and then you get back into the fight, and you go, beat some people up, and, if you have to, then you get ulti back. So very interesting skill line. I hope I made some sense with this. I know I rambled a little bit because, I wasn't staged or anything. The skills are interesting. I think it's going to take, there's nothing in this skill line that is so powerful it's automatically going to replace a skill on a specific build. But I think there are skills in here, when used correctly, can be very powerful and are going to annoy people quite a bit. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know if I missed something. Let me know if you want me to test something specifically with these specific things. I know I didn't test them all in full here, but wanted to talk through all of them and without making like a 60-minute video. So thank you for watching, guys. Have a nice day.